A meeting. It was a beautiful autumn afternoon, with the sun casting a warm, golden light over the countryside. Pierre Carnier, a young lawyer from Paris, was walking along a quiet road lined with trees. He had just finished his work for the day and decided to take a stroll to clear his mind. The rustling leaves under his feet, the crisp air, and the calmness of the countryside filled him with a sense of peace. As he walked, he spotted a woman in the distance, sitting on a bench near a bend in the road. She appeared to be lost in thought, gazing off into the fields. Out of simple curiosity, Pierre approached her. As he drew closer, he recognized her face. It was Julie Lefebvre, a woman he had met 10 years ago in Paris. Pierre had been infatuated with her back then, captivated by her beauty and grace. They had been in a brief, passionate relationship, but like many youthful romances, it ended as quickly as it had begun. Life moved on, and they lost touch, both going their separate ways. "Julie," he said hesitantly, not entirely sure if she would recognize him after all these years. The woman turned her head slowly, her eyes widening in surprise. "Pierre," she replied, her voice filled with both astonishment and recognition. "It really is you." They stood there, looking at each other for a moment, memories of their past surfacing between them. Time had changed them both, yet there was something unmistakable about the connection they had once shared. "It's been so long," Pierre said, taking a seat beside her on the bench. "What brings you here?" Julie smiled softly, but it was a sad smile. "I come here often. It's peaceful. Helps me think." Pierre nodded, sensing that there was more to her visit than just seeking peace. "And how have you been? What have you been up to all these years?" Julie sighed and looked down at her hands. Life has been different than I expected," she said quietly. "I got married, but my husband passed away a few years ago. Since then, I've been alone." "I'm so sorry to hear that," Pierre said sincerely, feeling a pang of sadness for her. "I had no idea." "It's all right," Julie replied, brushing off the sympathy. "We all have our hardships. What about you? Are you still practicing law?" "Yes," Pierre answered. "I've been working in Paris. It keeps me busy, but I can't complain." They fell into a comfortable silence for a few moments, both lost in their own thoughts. The sound of the wind through the trees and the distant chirping of birds filled the air. "I often think about the past," Julie said suddenly, breaking the silence. "About the people we used to be." Pierre glanced at her, noticing the distant look in her eyes. "I do too," he admitted. "It feels like a lifetime ago." Julie nodded slowly. "We were so young, so full of hope and dreams. And now—" Her voice trailed off. "Now we've changed," Pierre finished for her. "But that's life, isn't it? We grow, we move forward. But the memories, they stay with us." Julie smiled at him again, this time a more genuine smile. "I'm glad we ran into each other today," she said. "It's nice to remember." "Me too," Pierre agreed. It's good to see you, even if only for a brief moment. They sat there a little longer, reminiscing about their shared past and talking about the lives they had led since. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the fields. Finally, Julie stood up, smoothing out her skirt. "I should be going," she said. "It's getting late." Pierre stood as well. "I'll walk with you," he offered. They walked in silence for a while, side by side, until they reached the point where their paths would part. Julie turned to face him, her expression thoughtful. "Goodbye, Pierre," she said softly. "I hope life brings you happiness." "You too, Julie," Pierre replied, feeling a strange sense of closure. "Take care." With a final smile, Julie turned and walked away, her figure slowly disappearing into the distance. Pierre watched her go, his heart heavy yet peaceful. As he turned and walked back toward town, he realized that this meeting, brief as it was, had reminded him of something important. That even though life changes, and we change with it, the moments and people from our past are always with us, shaping who we become.
Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, and share our channel Magic Mingle with your friends to enjoy more magical stories.